Hi, good morning to all of you. So, shall we start? Fine. Start करें. So, good morning to all of you. Let us start once again. So, yesterday we began to discuss about the major developments till the beginning of 20th century. And just to recapitulate briefly, we had been discussing that whole European continent got broadly divided into two major groups or camps known as Triple Alliance and Triple Entente. Clear? We had discussed how these system of alliances and counter alliances began to be formed. Clear? And it was started by Otto von Bismarck after German unification. By the end of 19th century, Triple Alliance came into being as a pure military alliance comprising of Germany, Austria, Hungary, and Italy. Clear? On the other hand, after Bismarck was deposed from his post, France started to make counter alliance, and it resulted into establishment of Triple Entente in the beginning of 20th century, comprising of Britain, France, and Russia. Clear? The member states of these two groups began to acquire more and more arms and weapons. Race for armament created a warlike situation, and only a spark was needed to start a major war, and this spark was provided by two regional crises. One was in form of the Moroccan crisis, another was in form of the Balkan crisis. Clear? So till this point we had discussed yesterday, that is the Moroccan crisis and the Balkan crisis. So today we'll start with these two regional crises, ultimately leading to the beginning of the First World War in 1914. Clear? So first of all we'll discuss about Moroccan crisis. Clear? So there were two phases of Moroccan crisis. So there were two phases of Moroccan crisis. We'll discuss about these two phases of Moroccan crisis that took place in the beginning of 20th century. Just understand. Clear? Yesterday only we had discussed that Britain joined the group of France and Russia primarily to oppose the German expansion in Asia and Africa. In fact, Germany began to acquire large number of colonies in Asia and Africa, which was a direct threat to the position of Britain. Clear? Germany established control over some parts of Africa and even some major parts of China in Asian continent, and became a major colonial threat for both Britain and France. Clear? This forced Britain and France to come together, and therefore in the beginning of 20th century, Britain and France entered into a secret agreement related to African continent. And this secret agreement was that as per this agreement, Britain decided to establish its monopoly over African country of Egypt just because of Suez Canal. Clear? And at the same time, France was allowed to establish monopoly over Morocco. We had discussed Morocco is connected with Europe, that is with country of Spain, through Strait of Gibraltar. Clear? So it was a secret agreement whereby Morocco was to establish its monopoly over, Morocco was to witness the monopoly of France, and Egypt was to witness the monopoly of Britain. Clear? But as soon as this secret agreement began to be enforced, Germany protested against this. Why? Clear? Because way back in 1882, all major European powers had signed a treaty agreement known as Madrid Agreement, whereby it was decided by all European powers that no two countries or single country can have any policy over Morocco. There should be a consensus related to Morocco, because Morocco provided the route to enter into large African continent. Clear? So all European powers wanted to have equal say in Morocco, because Morocco was the entry to large African continent. So two countries or single country could not take any decision related to Morocco, and since it was a secret treaty between Britain and France, Germany protested against this agreement, and therefore it resulted into beginning of Moroccan crisis. Clear? Germany immediately called for another international conference to decide the fate of Morocco, and this conference was convened in 1906 in the Spanish city of Algeciras. Clear? It's also known as Algeciras Conference of World History. Clear? And in this conference of 1906, Germany began to adopt very aggressive measure. It has become a military power by this time, and Germany said that if France will try to establish monopoly over Morocco, Germany will have to take military action. Clear? At this point of time, clear, Germany adopted very aggressive stand, but Germany faced an awkward situation. That awkward situation was Italy decided not to support Germany, because yesterday only we had discussed that when Triple Alliance was formed, Italy made it clear it will be a party only in case of defense, not for aggression. Triple Alliance was to witness as defensive military alliance, not for aggression or combat. Clear? Since Italy did not support Germany, Germany had to lower down its tone in the Algeciras conference. Clear? Meanwhile, Britain intervened in this conference, said even though France cannot establish monopoly over Morocco, but France will have trade monopoly over Morocco. So even though France was not allowed to have complete monopoly over Morocco, but France was allowed to establish trade monopoly over Morocco. With this, the first phase of Moroccan crisis came to an end, and Germany had to accept the demand, because obviously Germany was not supported by one of its ally, Italy, at this time. Clear? Meanwhile, when France started to establish trade monopoly over Morocco, another phase of Moroccan crisis started in 1908. Now do understand. Clear? Morocco was a part of large Islamic empire known as the Ottoman Empire. Clear? Since Morocco was the part of large Islamic empire, Morocco was a part of large Islamic or Ottoman Empire, Morocco needed to be protected, and therefore a large number of Islamic people decided to protect Morocco, who were members of Ottoman Empire. They were known as Young Turks, and all these members of Young Turks, they started to protest against the trade monopoly of Morocco. It started a movement known as the Young Turk movement. Clear? So when Young Turk movement was started at this point of time, this marked the beginning of second phase of Moroccan crisis. Clear? And at this time, in the second phase of Moroccan crisis, clear, Germany again entered into this contest, and Germany deputed its warship named as Panther on the coast of Morocco known as Agadir, leading to Agadir crisis. Clear? Now, placement of a warship by Germany in Morocco was a direct challenge to the naval superiority of Britain. So Britain began to convince Germany to recall back its warship Panther. Germany here entered into hard bargain, and Germany demanded the surrender of French Congo, large French colony in Africa. Britain convinced France to surrender French Congo, and large region of French Congo was surrendered by France to Germany at this time. Clear? This ended the crisis, but France began to feel it has been only blackmailed to take the region of French Congo, and strong bitterness began to prevail between France and Germany. Clear? So this created all scenario of war without the occurrence of the war in real sense. So Moroccan crisis created all ground for war, even though it did not lead to outbreak of the First World War. These were two phases of Moroccan crisis. We'll write about the two phases of Moroccan crisis. Okay. So we'll write about Moroccan crisis. Clear? Right. Heading as Moroccan crisis. Right. Right. In the beginning of the 20th century, in the beginning of the 20th century, 20th century, 20th century, a serious regional crisis took place. A serious regional crisis took place. Regional crisis took place in form of the Moroccan crisis. In form of the Moroccan crisis. Form of the Moroccan crisis. Form of the Moroccan crisis. Moroccan crisis. Clear? Right. The region of Morocco. The region of Morocco. The region of Morocco. The region of Morocco is located. Now look into Morocco, Africa. Clear this Spain. The region of Morocco is located in the northern part of Africa. Is located in the northern part of Africa. Africa, very close to Spain. Very close to Spain. Spain. Okay. Right. In fact, Morocco provided an entry point to European powers, to explore the large African continent, large African continent, large African continent, large African continent, clear? Right. By the end of the 19th century, is all major European powers decided to have an open door policy, towards Morocco, Clear? Right. However, in the beginning of the 20th century, France and Britain entered into a secret agreement whereby Britain decided to establish its monopoly over Egypt. Whereas France decided to establish its monopoly, France decided to establish monopoly over Morocco. Over Morocco. Morocco. Clear? Right. This secret agreement was opposed by Germany. This secret agreement was opposed by Germany, and it demanded and it demanded that another international conference should be convened. Another international conference should be convened to decide about Morocco. To decide about Morocco. Clear? Right. This resulted into an international conference. This resulted into an international conference in the Spanish city of Algeciras. In the Spanish city of Algeciras, Algeciras, in the Spanish city of Algeciras in 1906. Algeciras in 1906. Okay. Right. During this conference, Germany adopted a radical stand. Germany adopted a radical stand. But Italy refused to surrender. Italy refused to surrender. Italy refused to support. That created an awkward situation. Situation for Germany. Awkward situation for Germany. Awkward situation for Germany. Awkward situation for Germany. Situation for Germany. Clear? Therefore, Britain intervened and decided that France will establish its trade monopoly over Morocco, which had to be accepted by Germany, and it ended the first phase. Of Moroccan crisis. First phase of Moroccan crisis. Clear? Moroccan crisis. Change paragraph. Right, when France tried to establish, 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 when France tried to establish trade monopoly, several Islamic leaders, leaders began to oppose French forces, and they started Young Turk movement, and they started Young Turk movement, and they started Young Turk movement, Young Turk movement, Young Turk movement. Clear? Young Turk movement in 1908. In 1908. Clear? Right. This marked the beginning of the second phase of Moroccan crisis. The second phase of Moroccan crisis. And Germany placed its warship. Panther. Germany placed its warship Panther on the Moroccan coast of Agadir. Agadir is located here. Clear? They placed its warship Panther on the Moroccan coast of Agadir. Agadir. It's also known as Agadir crisis. Moroccan coast of Agadir. Clear? Right. It was a direct naval challenge. It was a direct naval challenge for Britain. Naval challenge for Britain. Challenge for Britain. Naval challenge for Britain. That intervened to resolve the crisis. Clear? Right. Germany was requested to recall back. Its warship. But Germany demanded the surrender of French Congo. Germany demanded the surrender of French Congo in Africa. French Congo in Africa, which was a French colony. French colony. Clear? Right. Britain asked France to surrender. French Congo. to surrender French Congo. French Congo. That resolved the Moroccan crisis. That resolved the Moroccan crisis. Moroccan crisis. Okay, right. However, France realized that it has been blackmailed by Germany. Realized that it has been blackmailed by Germany. Blackmailed by Germany. Blackmailed by Germany. Germany to take the region of French Congo. To take the region of French Congo. That led to further bitterness. That led to further bitterness and created ground for a major war. Created ground for a major war. So this was Moroccan crisis. Almost created a war-like situation. Two phases of Moroccan crisis. That is in North America. Clear? Now, second crisis was in form of the Balkan crisis that actually led to the occurrence of the major war. Clear? Now, we'll come to this crisis known as the Balkan crisis. Clear? Now, what is this Balkan crisis? We'll just understand. Clear? First of all, understand about the Balkan crisis. Clear? To be taken. Let us take this map. Okay, we'll have this map. Take this clear map. Okay, this region is known as Balkan region. The countries are Croatia, Serbia, Romania, Bulgaria, Macedonia, Albania, Montenegro, Bosnia and Herzegovina. This region is known as the Balkan region. Now, what was the crisis? Clear? We had already discussed that in the region of Balkan, there was one region known as Hungary. Clear? And Hungary was already a part of Austria. Clear? Austria therefore was known as Austria-Hungary, and Austria had direct confrontation with Russia over Balkan region, as Russia always wanted to maintain the safety and security of the Balkan countries. Clear? Now, how the crisis started to take place, we'll just understand. Clear? Since Austria-Hungary has joined alliance with Germany, and Germany has emerged to be a very powerful country, with support of Germany, Austria decided to expand in the Balkan region. Clear? Austria therefore decided to have control over further Balkan region, and it led to major controversy. Now, what was this controversy? How it started? Clear? There is one region in Balkan region known as Serbia. Clear? And this region of Serbia was known for population of one racial community known as the Serb community. Clear? So Serbia was known for large ethnic community known as the Serbs. Clear? Just because of Serbs only, the country was known as Serbia. But apart from Serbia, large number of Serbs were also there in two regions of Bosnia and Herzegovina. Therefore, Serbia at that time decided to integrate Bosnia and Herzegovina to establish a large country dominated by Serbs, because most of the countries in Balkan region were created based on ethnic consideration. Serb people wanted to come together and they wanted to establish a large country dominated by Serbs, and therefore Serbia wanted to integrate two other regions dominated by Serbs, that is Bosnia and Herzegovina. Clear? But all ethnic consideration of the Serbs were affected when Austria forcefully annexed the regions of Bosnia and Herzegovina in 1908. This marked the beginning of Balkan crisis as Bosnia and Herzegovina were annexed by Austria in 1908. Clear? When this annexation took place, even Russia protested against this annexation as attack on sovereignty of the Balkan region. Clear? Meanwhile, when this attack took place and annexation was done, after some time only, there was a prince in Austria who wanted to take the charge of Habsburg dynasty. Habsburg was the ruling family in Austria, and this prince was known as Archduke Francis Ferdinand. Clear? But before taking the charge of Austrian throne at Vienna, Archduke Francis Ferdinand wanted to reconcile with the people of Bosnia and Herzegovina. Clear? That is why Archduke Francis Ferdinand decided to visit the capital of Bosnia, and the capital of Bosnia was known as Sarajevo. Clear? He along with his wife visited the capital of Bosnia, that is Sarajevo, but on 30th of June 1914, Archduke Francis Ferdinand along with his wife were assassinated by a Serb student. Clear? Just because resentment was there among the Serb population. As soon as assassination of Austrian prince took place, Austria declared Serbia to be responsible for this assassination, and Austria decided to attack Serbia. But to rescue Serbia, Russia came into picture, and Russia decided to support Serbia. Clear? Meanwhile, when all such developments were taking place, on 1st of August 1914, Germany attacked the region of Bosnia, Serbia. Clear? Germany was impatient for war, and since Germany attacked the region of Serbia, Russia came to the rescue of Serbia, and it marked the beginning of European conflict, which in later course of time became intercontinental in nature, to be known as the First World War. So immediate factor that led to the occurrence of First World War was the Balkan crisis and the assassination of Austrian prince in the Bosnian capital of Sarajevo. Clear? We'll write about the Balkan crisis. Clear? Right. Next, the Balkan crisis. Heading as the Balkan crisis. Okay. Right. The region of Balkan. The region of Balkan was a boiling point. In European politics, clear? European politics. Okay, right. Austria wanted to extend its control over Balkan region, over Balkan region, beyond Hungary. Hungary was already under its control. Beyond Hungary. Clear? Right. With such intention, Austria annexed the Balkan region. Of Bosnia and Herzegovina. Balkan region of Bosnia and Herzegovina. Balkan region of Bosnia and Herzegovina. Bosnia and Herzegovina. In 1908. Clear? Right. This affected the ethnic sentiments. Of Serbs, SERBs, ethnic sentiments of Serbs. Clear? Right. Serbia Serbia wanted to integrate. Serbia wanted to integrate Bosnia and Herzegovina. Serbia wanted to integrate Bosnia and Herzegovina to establish a large Serb state. To establish a large Serb state. Clear? Change paragraph. Right? The annexation of Bosnia and Herzegovina. The annexation of Bosnia and Herzegovina led to serious Balkan crisis. Led to serious Balkan crisis. Clear? Balkan crisis. Right. After some time, the prince of the Habsburg family, the ruling family of Austria, the prince of the Habsburg family, Archduke Francis Ferdinand, decided to become the ruler of Austria. Right. However, he wanted to reconcile. The people of Bosnia and Herzegovina. He wanted to reconcile the people of Bosnia and Herzegovina. Before assuming throne. Clear? Assuming throne. Right. With such objective, he along with his wife visited the Bosnian capital of Sarajevo. Capital of Sarajevo. Okay. Right. However, he along with his wife were assassinated by a Serb student. Discontent was already there. By a Serb student. Clear? Right. Immediately, Austria declared Serbia to be responsible and decided to take action. Clear? Right. On 1st of August 1914, Germany declared war. It was impatient for war. Germany declared war against Serbia, and Russia started to resist, which marked the beginning of the First World War. Clear? 1st of August 1940. So, in this way, the First World War started. So, we had discussed all the major developments and factors that led to the occurrence of First World War in 1914. Clear? So, starting with the system of alliances and counter-alliances, race for imperialism and colonialism, war over naval supremacy, and at the same time alliances and counter-alliances, and finally the Moroccan crisis and the Balkan crisis. All these were major factors that led to the beginning of the First World War. Clear? Now we'll discuss about, since we had discussed the prelude, the reasons, the factors that led to First World War, now we'll discuss about the scope of this war. Since it is a global war and initially started as a European phenomena, later on became intercontinental in nature, so we need to discuss about the scope of First World War. Then we'll discuss about the course of First World War, and then we'll finally discuss about consequences of First World War. We need to discuss this topic elaborately because it is mentioned explicitly in our syllabus for mains examination. Clear? So let us first of all discuss about the scope of the First World War. Clear? Because we need to discuss scope because initially started merely as European phenomena but became global in character in course of time as new countries joined this war to make it intercontinental in nature. So we'll come to the scope of First World War. Before this, we have a question, clear, and this question has been asked by Chitra. Clear? Sir, I have a question regarding imperialism and colonialism. Sir, in case of POK, that is Pakistan occupied Kashmir, what it would be called or termed as? Is it imperialism? But citizens of Pakistan are occupying, residing there, so it be colonialism. Again, I'll let you know. Clear? See, first of all, it is neither imperialism nor colonialism. It must be understood. Clear? It was a military aggression by Pakistan, where Pakistan forcefully established control over Pakistan occupied Kashmir or western part of Kashmir. Clear? Why it cannot be termed as imperialism or colonialism? Because the line that divides Kashmir into POK, this line is known as the line of control. Initially, it was known as ceasefire line. Clear? And ceasefire line was accepted by both India and Pakistan mutually in 1948 itself. Later on in the Shimla Agreement, it was declared to be line of control by Indira Gandhi and Zulfikar Ali Bhutto. Clear? And it is a pure bilateral line, not an international boundary. Since it is not an internationally recognized boundary, obviously without boundary we cannot use the term imperialism or colonialism. So it can only be said as a temporary arrangement just because of aggression of Pakistan. Large parts of POK came under effective control of Pakistan. So it cannot be termed either as imperialism or colonialism because it is not an internationally recognized boundary. So LOC, line of control, is not an internationally recognized boundary between India and Pakistan. Is that clear? So it is basically an act of aggression by Pakistan to have control over parts of Kashmir. Clear, Chitra? Now revert back. Clear? Next question, sir. Why the region of Balkan was so attractive to the European powers? Parth. Clear? See, Balkan region, because obviously Balkan region was not attractive. Rather, Balkan region was always a point of controversy because multi-ethnic communities were there in Balkan. Since large number of diverse ethnic communities were there in the region of Balkan, obviously every ethnic community wanted their own country. So on the grounds of self-government, on the ground of self-determination, every ethnic community needed to be given their own country. That is why you find smaller countries there. Just because smaller countries, because the country has been created on ethnic ground. Since large number of multi-ethnic people were there, it always proved to be controversial in order to create more and more countries. In fact, the phenomena of Balkanization means creating more and more countries on the grounds of ethnic communities or ethnic consideration. So it was not attractive, but it was more controversial because of multi-ethnicity in Balkan region. Clear? So Is it clear, Chitra? It is clear, Parth? Just revert back. Clear? Meanwhile, now we'll discuss about the scope of the First World War. Scope meaning thereby that initially started as a European phenomena but became global in character. Write the heading as the scope of the First World War. The scope of the First World War. The scope of the First World War. Now we'll understand. Next question is, hi sir, Britain is everywhere but as partners only. France is targeted by Germany. Why? Yeah, we had discussed, very valid thing, I'll let you know. Clear? His question is clear that Britain is everywhere but as a partner only France is targeted by Germany. The reason is, we had discussed, Britain never interfered into mainland politics of Europe because Britain is separated from mainland Europe by a large water body, English Channel, and in mainland Europe France and Germany were the two major powers. Clear? So obviously to dominate the European continent they needed to decide issues among themselves. Clear? So normally why France and Germany was always in picture? Because both were adjoining countries and both were in the European mainland and both wanted to dominate European mainland. So obviously most of the conflict took place between France and Germany. In extreme cases only Britain interfered, otherwise Britain remained aloof from mainland politics of Europe. This clear. Next is, sir, when India accept the line of control, then why India claim POK is the integral part of India? See, it's a part of modern history, but I'll let you know briefly. Clear? First of all, why India accepted line of control? Line of control, LOC, was accepted by India in 1972 under Shimla Agreement. Why? It was in fact a victory for Indira Gandhi because in 1971 only India liberated East Pakistan in form of Bangladesh. Clear? Thereafter Indira Gandhi called for a conference at Shimla which was attended by Pakistani counterpart Zulfikar Ali Bhutto. The most diplomatic victory for India was Zulfikar Ali Bhutto recognized the independent status of Bangladesh. Clear? At the same time, with respect to Kashmir, both Zulfikar Ali Bhutto and Indira Gandhi said that this ceasefire line should be accepted as a bilateral boundary between India and Pakistan known as line of control. India accepted because obviously large parts of Kashmir was already under Pakistan, and India had to accept line of control because in 1948 only during the regime of Nehru, clear, United States made it clear and Britain also made it clear that in order to integrate Kashmir, public referendum should be held. Nehru made it clear that referendum can be held only peace is restored in Kashmir and Pakistani people revert back to original boundary, that is vacate, that is your POK. Since POK was never vacated, public referendum has not been held, and since public referendum has not been held, obviously Indira Gandhi had to accept POK and line of control. It's clear? And integral part of India because obviously the whole Kashmir is a integral part of India. POK is just an aggression of Pakistan to take large parts of Kashmir. But obviously if you look at that in maps also we show the whole Kashmir to be part of India including POK because obviously POK and entire Kashmir is a integral part of India as per instrument of accession signed in 1947. Is it clear, Vishwajit? Next is, so in case of imperialism or colonialism, it always need to be recognized by international authorities. Yeah, the global communities should realize that it is imperial power within defined political limit. If political boundaries not internationally recognized, imperialism and colonialism cannot be taken in concrete shape. It's clear? Now coming to the scope of the First World War. Now just understand, clear? Yesterday only we had discussed that there were two major power camps when First World War started. One was known as the Triple Alliance. Triple Alliance comprised of Germany, Austria-Hungary and Italy. Germany, Austria-Hungary and Italy. Clear? On the other hand, we had discussed there was Triple Entente. This comprised of Britain, France, and Russia. We had discussed this yesterday only, clear? Triple Alliance and Triple Entente. The First World War started between Triple Alliance and Triple Entente only. In fact, Germany attacked Serbia, Russia came to the rescue of Serbia, and First World War started to take place, clear? But just understand the scope clearly, clear? When the First World War started, from the beginning only, the both Triple Alliance and Triple Entente got diluted and their identity came to an end, clear? So Triple Alliance also lost its identity, Triple Entente also lost its identity, and both were replaced by larger groups in the course of First World War that indicate the scope of this war. Now, why this change took place? Clear? As soon as First World War started, due to aggression of Germany and Austria-Hungary, Italy walked away from Triple Alliance, because we had discussed, Italy had made it clear this alliance must be witnessed as defensive military alliance, not as aggressive military alliance. Since Italy was declared to be a defensive military alliance, clear? Italy walked away from this alliance and largely remained to be a neutral country in the First World War, clear? So as soon as the First World War started, clear, Italy walked away from this alliance, clear? Since Italy walked away from this alliance, obviously Triple Alliance also got liquidated and Triple Alliance came to an end, clear? Meanwhile, even though, clear, Germany and Austria-Hungary remained in this alliance, Italy walked away, other powers joined this alliance, clear? And among the powers, one Balkan country joined this alliance. This Balkan country, one Balkan country joined this alliance. This Balkan country was Bulgaria, clear? Bulgaria joined this alliance because Bulgaria wanted to extend at the cost of Greece and Romania. We'll discuss, clear? Bulgaria was located in between and Greece was towards the southern side, Romania was on the northern side. We'll understand through map also. So Bulgaria joined the group of Austria-Hungary and Germany. Apart from Bulgaria, the next major power to join this group, this power was Turkey. Now, very important country. Turkey was the head of large Islamic empire known as the Ottoman Empire. And as soon as Sultan of Turkey joined this group, obviously Islamic communities all across the world joined the First World War directly or indirectly. In fact, the entry of Turkey made this war intercontinental in nature to be known as the First World War. Clear? This large group comprising of Germany, Austria-Hungary, Bulgaria and Turkey, this large group came to be known as Central Powers in the First World War. Central Powers in the First World War. Clear? So, Central Powers in the First World War: Germany, Austria-Hungary, Bulgaria and Turkey. Central Powers, clear, in the First World War. In the First World War, clear? So, scope of the war got enlarged. Now, coming to Triple Entente, clear? When this war started, Russia came to the rescue of Serbia and Russia was attacked by both Germany and Austria-Hungary. Russia still was a traditional country marked by autocratic monarchy and feudal system. Therefore, Russia got defeated thoroughly by Germany and Austria-Hungary and Russia had to walk away from this war. That is why in the midst of this war only, Russia witnessed a greatest ideological revolution known as the Russian Revolution or the Socialist Revolution under Vladimir Lenin in 1917. So obviously Russia had to walk away from this war and Russia got thoroughly defeated. Since Russia walked away from this war, clear? Russia walked away from this war, obviously the entity or identity of Triple Entente also got diluted. Since the identity of Triple Entente got diluted, some new countries began to join this alliance. Clear? In order to oppose Bulgaria, two Balkan countries joined this alliance. These two Balkan countries, were Romania and Greece. Romania and Greece. Clear? Apart from Romania and Greece, one another country joined this alliance, and this country was from Asian continent. Clear? And this country that joined this alliance from Asian continent, this country was Japan. Clear? Why Japan joined this group? We need to understand. Japan wanted to extend towards Chinese territory, but large parts of China had been colonized by Germany. So obviously, to defeat Germany in Chinese territory, Japan joined the group against Germany, and Japan joined the group of Britain and France. Clear? When Japan joined this group, the war became intercontinental in nature because it reached up to Asian continent as well. Clear? Another country that joined this war to make intercontinental in nature, this country was none other than United States. Clear? United States by this time had grown to be a very powerful country, and as soon as the war started, United States began to supply arms and weapons to major countries like Britain and France. Clear? And therefore Germany realized that if this war has to be won, this supply chain from United States needs to be ended. So US vessels began to be sunk in the ocean by German U-boats or submarines. Since German submarines began to sink the major vessels of United States was forced to participate in this war against Germany, and this joined the group of Britain and France. This group comprising of 6 countries that came into being in the First World War, this group came to be known as the Allied Powers. So, Triple Entente got replaced by another group known as the Allied Powers in the First World War that clearly indicate the scope of this war. So, Triple Alliance got replaced by Central Powers, and Triple Entente got replaced by Allied Powers in the First World War. This indicates the scope of the First World War. We'll write first of all the scope. Clear? Right, heading as scope of the First World War. There's a question. Clear? Sir, as Indira Gandhi accepted LOC, does it mean that Indian government cannot claim or occupy POK? Indian government can occupy POK because anyway POK is only a bilateral line, not an internationally recognized boundary. There's a difference between bilateral line and internationally recognized boundary. If POK is an international boundary, obviously India cannot claim. But since it is a bilateral line, India anytime can claim POK. Clear? Next is, sir, is Austria-Hungary one nation or two different nations? As of now, Austria is a different country and Hungary is a different country. Hungary in fact is a Balkan country. So as of now, Austria is also separate, Hungary is also a separate country. It's clear, Bishwajit? Now write about the scope. Clear? Right, with the outbreak of the First World War, with the outbreak of the First World War, Italy decided to remain neutral. And walked away from Triple Alliance. Clear? Clear? Right. This diluted the identity of Triple Alliance. Clear? Right. In course of the war, right, war W capital, it's a global war. In course of the war, a Balkan country, Bulgaria, joined this group. Against two neighboring countries, of Romania and Greece. I'll show you on map. Clear? Two countries. See, Bulgaria is here, Romania on the northern side, Greece on the other side. So Bulgaria wanted to expand towards the northern side against Romania. Bulgaria wanted to extend towards southern side towards Greece. Clear? So Bulgaria joined the one group and two other countries had to join other group, that is allied powers, Romania and Greece. Clear? So against Romania and Greece. Clear? Right. Moreover, this group was also joined by a sensitive country, Turkey. Sensitive country, Turkey, which was the head of the large Ottoman Empire. Which was the head of the large Ottoman Empire. Head of the large Ottoman Empire. Head of the large Ottoman Empire. Clear? Right. This group comprising of Germany, Austria-Hungary, Bulgaria and Turkey. This group comprising of Germany, Austria-Hungary, Bulgaria and Turkey came to be known as the Central Powers. Came to be known as the Central Powers. Which indicate the scope of the First World War. Which indicate the scope of the First World War. Scope of the First World War. Clear? So you need to understand the scope. Clear? Change paragraph. Clear? Right. With the beginning of the First World War, the identity of Triple Entente. The identity of Triple Entente. E-N-T-E. The identity of Triple Entente was affected as Russia was thoroughly defeated. And forced to move away. Clear? Move away. Right. At the same time, two Balkan countries. Of Romania and Greece. Two Balkan countries of Romania and Greece joined. The group against Bulgaria. Clear? Right. The scope of the war, write W in capital. The scope of the war got considerably enhanced. The scope of the war got considerably enhanced. The scope of the war got considerably enhanced. Considerably enhanced. Considerably enhanced. considerably enhanced. Considerably enhanced as Japan joined the group, against German occupation of China. Against German occupation of China. German occupation of China. German occupation of China. Clear? Right. The intercontinental character was further reinforced. The intercontinental character was further reinforced. Enforced with entry of United States. In this group, United States in this group, as US vessels began to be attacked by vessels began to be attacked by German submarines. Clear? Right. This large group came to be known as the Allied powers. So scope of the war, you have to explain this. There can be a separate question on the scope of the war. So you have to explain how Triple Alliance got replaced by Central Power and how Triple Entente got replaced by Allied powers. Clear? Now this was scope of the war. Now coming to the course of the war, that the war went on for 4 years from 1914 to 1918. What were the major battles fought in this war? Clear? And at the same time when this war started, the first major battle which was fought in France, it is known as Battle of Marne. Clear? After Battle of Marne, the longest battle was fought in form of Battle of Verdun, and the most intense battle which was fought was known as Battle of Jutland. Clear? So 3 battles are very important in the First World War apart from other battles. First we need to discuss the first battle, major battle, second the longest battle, and third the most intense battle. Clear? We'll come to the 3 battles in the course of the First World War. Clear? Before we discuss the course, there are some questions. Clear? Sir, did Italy participate in World War I? Italy participated, not initially but later on, not on behalf of Germany and Austria, but on behalf of Allied powers. Okay? So by the end of First World War, Italy participated with France and Britain. Why? France and Britain gave assurance to Italy that if they are able to defeat Central Power, certain rewards, territorial rewards will be given to Italy. So in expectation of territorial rewards, Italy participated in the war by the end with France and Britain. Clear? Second is, clear. So Italy completely did not remain away from World War I. It participated after by the end of World War I. Next is, sir, it is said that what happens if diplomacy fails? Was the idea of diplomacy absent during period of 1914? See, all measures of diplomacy took place. Like we had discussed, the Moroccan crisis, the Balkan crisis, these were all diplomatic moves to a large extent. But all those diplomatic moves finally failed. That led to further bitterness and created ground for First World War. So obviously, there were not such hectic diplomatic negotiation as it took place before Second World War. But some amount of diplomatic negotiations took place. But since it could not lead to any productive result, it ultimately culminated into First World War. Subhashri. Clear? Now coming to the course of the First World War. Right, separate heading, the course of the First World War. Next question, sir. Why Turkey joined the group of Central Power? Turkey joined because obviously Turkey was the head of large Ottoman Empire, and several Ottoman countries, including Morocco, was being dominated by France and Britain, Egypt and Morocco. Clear? So to relieve these countries from Britain, France, obviously Turkey had to join the group opposed to Britain, France, and this was the group opposed to Britain, France, and therefore Turkey joined the group of Germany and Austria-Hungary. Is this clear, Parth? Why Turkey joined the group of Central Powers? Subhash, thank you. Thank you. Clear? Is it clear why Turkey joined the group of Central Powers? Parth. Because obviously Turkey needed to protect the interest of Ottoman countries, and major Ottoman countries were being dominated by Britain and France. Okay, now write the course of the war, course of the First World War. Clear? Write introduction. The First World War continued. The First World War continued. The First World War continued from 1914 to 1918. From 1914 to 1918, marked by several battles. Marked by several battles. Marked by several battles. Clear? Right. The first major battle. The first major battle of the First World War. Of the First World War was the Battle of Marne. Was the Battle of Marne. M-A-R-N-E. Was the Battle of Marne. Was the Battle of Marne. Fought in France. Fought in France. Okay. Right. In this battle, the Allied powers resisted the aggression of Germany and Austria-Hungary. Resisted the aggression of Germany and Austria-Hungary. Germany and Austria-Hungary. Germany and Austria-Hungary. Austria-Hungary. Clear? Right. In this military clash, German aggression was checked. German aggression was checked to a large extent. German aggression was checked to a large extent. Change paragraph. Clear? Right. Another major conflict during the First World War. During the First World War was the Battle of Verdun. Was the Battle of Verdun. V-E-R-D-U-N. Was the Battle of Verdun. Was the Battle of Verdun. That proved to be the longest battle. That proved to be the longest battle. Fought again in France. Longest battle. Fought again in France. Fought again in France. Clear? Right. Even in this military clash, the Allied powers checked the advance of checked the advance of German forces. Advance of German forces. Okay? Right. However, the First World War. However, the First World War. However, the First World War witnessed the most intense battle. Witnessed the most intense battle in form of the Battle of Jutland. In form of the Battle of Jutland on the coast of Denmark, northern region, on the coast of Denmark. Okay, right. This naval battle was primarily against. This naval battle was primarily against. This naval battle was primarily against the naval power of Germany, and United States. Clear? Right. The Battle of Jutland. The Battle of Jutland led to heavy losses. The Battle of Jutland led to heavy losses, but proved to be a turning point. Proved to be a turning point as Germany began to face serious reverses. Germany began to face serious reverses due to active participation of United States. By this time it became very powerful. Active participation of United States. Clear? Right. In 1919, the ruling family of Habsburg, in Austria, surrendered. Austria surrendered. Okay. Right. Beside, Bulgaria was defeated. These are countries. Beside, Bulgaria was defeated. Right. Next, moreover, the large Ottoman Empire. Began to decline and disintegrate. That forced Turkey to surrender. Right. Finally, Germany was forced to surrender. By the end of 1918, November 1918, by the end of 1918, which marked the end of the First World War, and Allied powers became victorious. Allied powers became victorious. So this ended the First World War. Three battles are very important. Clear? Ended the First World War. Clear? So obviously the war came to an end with defeat of the Central Powers by the end of 1918. So this was scope of First World War, course of First World War. Now we'll move on to impact or consequences of the First World War. As soon as Germany surrendered by November 1918 and Allied powers became victorious powers, the Allied powers of victorious powers decided to change the whole global equation after First World War. And with such objective, they convened an international conference at Paris, which is known in history as the Paris Peace Conference. Clear? So Paris Peace Conference was convened in 1919, and in this Paris Peace Conference it was decided to deal with the defeated powers and to ensure prevention of any war like the Second World War in the coming time. Clear? So we'll discuss elaborately the major deliberations that took place in Paris Peace Conference of 1919. Clear? Now, do understand this conference. You get questions from this conference because you even get a question that the Second World War was embedded in the deliberations of the Paris Peace Conference. Clear? So, what exactly happened in the Paris Peace Conference will come to this conference as a major consequence of the First World War. Clear? Now, before this, there's a question. Sir, all continents like Australia did not participate in First World War. Then how it's named World War? Vishwajit. Clear? See, almost all the countries, not all the countries. Clear? Obviously, not all the major parts of the world cannot be a part of single war. Clear? But almost all the countries participated, and therefore it is termed as the First World War. Not all the countries. Clear? So, since most of the countries were directly or indirectly connected with the war, it is known as the First World War. It's clear, Vishwajit. Clear? Now coming to the consequences of the First World War. Right, heading as the consequences of the First World War. Consequences of the First World War. Right, introduction first. Clear? Right, the First World War. The First World War came to an end. The First World War came to an end in 1918, came to an end in 1918 with the victory of the Allied powers. Victory of the Allied powers. Okay? Right. In order to decide the future course of action, in order to decide the future course of action, the Allied powers convened. The Allied powers convened. The Allied powers convened the Paris Peace Conference. Convened the Paris Peace Conference. Convened the Paris Peace Conference in 1919. Paris Peace Conference in 1919. Okay, right. This conference was attended by the leaders of, all victorious powers, leaders of all victorious powers, but four leaders played important role. Four leaders played important role. important role, and they are known as the big fours. Fours, right within inverted comma. They are known as the big fours. Clear? Do understand about these leaders, very important. And they were known as the big fours. Known as the big fours. Clear? Fours. Like the first among them was US President. The first among them was US President Woodrow Wilson. Woodrow Wilson, who was an idealist, ideal personality, who was an idealist. Clear? Right, approach also, right? He wanted durable peace to be established. He wanted durable peace to be established. Established by promoting healthy relationship among major countries. Clear? Right? In fact, he gave his famous 14 points. He gave his famous 14 points to maintain global peace and security. To maintain global peace and security. Peace and security. Clear? Right. Moreover, he advocated the establishment of an international body. The League of Nations, right? The League of Nations and capital. An international body, the League of Nations, to ensure collective security. So highly ideal. Collective security. First, clear? Right, next paragraph, clear? Right. The second major leader was British Prime Minister Lloyd George. Who was highly practical and wanted balance of power to be maintained. Among major powers of Europe. In order to focus more on colonies of Asia and Africa. Asia and Africa. Clear? Right. In other words, Lloyd George wanted to serve the national interest of Britain. Wanted to serve the national interest of Britain. Clear? So one being ideal, another being very practical. Clear? Right. The third important leader. Was a French minister. So France was represented by its minister. Was a French minister. Clemenceau. Was a French minister. Clemenceau. Was a French minister. Clemenceau. Was a French minister. Clemenceau, who was highly reactionary. Reactionary and revengeful. Highly reactionary and revengeful. Clear? Right. The objective of Clemenceau. Was to punish Germany. As harshly as possible. As harshly as possible. So it was highly reactionary. So one being ideal, another being practical, another being reactionary. As harshly as possible. So he wanted to take all revenge from Germany. Germany had been offending French sentiment since Battle of Sadowa. Clear? Right. The fourth major leader. Of Paris Peace Conference. Was Italian President. Orlando. Who participated to get territorial rewards. For Italian neutrality. Clear? Right. In other words, he was guided by selfish motive. So all the four had their own approach and ideas. Clear? Change paragraph. Right. Therefore, Paris Peace Conference was marked by clash of ideas, as well as clash of ideas, as well as clash of personalities, Okay? Right. Therefore, practical solutions could not be expected expected. Practical solutions could not be expected. In this conference, that sowed, S-O-W-E-D, that sowed the seeds of another major war. Sowed the seeds of another major war. We'll come to that. Clear? Major war. So first of all, we need to understand clash of ideas and clash of personalities. Clear? Now, since French Minister Clemenceau participated with sole objective to punish Germany as harshly as possible to settle the score which affected France since beginning. Clear? At this time only, several treaties were signed in Paris Peace Conference to be imposed upon defeated powers or the Central Power. The most humiliating treaty was imposed upon Germany, the prime country. Clear? And therefore, this treaty which was imposed upon Germany by the Allied powers is known as Treaty of Versailles, another major city located in France. Clear? And as per Treaty of Versailles, Germany was affected or rather paralyzed in all possible ways, and therefore it affected the sentiments of German people. So first of all, we'll discuss about the Treaty of Versailles which was imposed upon Germany after First World War. Clear? Change paragraph. Clear? That during Paris Peace Conference, the Allied powers imposed the Treaty of Versailles on Germany. The Allied powers imposed the Treaty of Versailles on Germany, that proved to be the most humiliating treaty, in world history. Clear? Now we'll come to provisions of Treaty of Versailles. Clear? First of all, we'll take some questions. So what was the status of India during First World War? India was under British rule during First World War, but Indian soldiers fought in First World War on behalf of British authority. Clear? India was involved in the First World War directly or indirectly. India was involved in the war indirectly, as large number of Indian forces were deployed by Britain to fight against the Central Power. So huge contribution was given by Indian soldiers to support Britain in the First World War. In fact, soldiers affected in First World War were given treatment by Mahatma Gandhi, and just because of this, Mahatma Gandhi was given the title of Kaisar-e-Hind by the British. Clear? So obviously India was indirectly involved in First World War, as large number of Indian soldiers fought on behalf of Britain in First World War. Second is, so what is collective security? Collective security means security involving more than two countries. Clear? When group of countries and their security is involved together, it is known as collective security. Clear? Why is collective security ideal and balance of power is practical? Collective security is ideal because obviously it is not practically feasible, because every country has their own set of dynamics. Clear? So obviously all the countries cannot come together or converge at one point for collective security, because obviously the national interest also proved to be conflicting in nature. So since national interest of several countries proved to be conflicting in nature, concept of collective security seems to be ideal. Rather, more practical concept is balance of power. That is, one country should balance against each other, so that with balance of power, peace and stability could be ensured. So it's right. Clear? Collective security is ideal because convergence of interest is something ideal in nature, not possible, and balance of power seems to be more practical. While the balance of power caused many battles in Europe, the balance of power caused many battles because as soon as the balance of power was disturbed, one country became more aggressive, other countries began to be subjugated, and in course of time, the subjugated countries came together and opposed the dominating country, leading to catastrophic wars. So balance of power, whenever it was disturbed, it resulted into First World War. For example, rise of Germany as a major country disturbed the balance of power, leading to two World Wars, that is in 1914 and in 1939. It's clear, Tista? It's clear, Nimai? Clear. Okay, now coming to The Treaty of Versailles, the most humiliating treaty. Clear? No, this treaty affected Germany in all possible ways. First of all, to understand. Clear? Under the terms of the Treaty of Versailles, first of all, German sovereignty was affected, meaning thereby Germany was forced to surrender its foreign policy. So Germany was since forced to surrender its foreign policy. It made clear Germany cannot maintain any bilateral or multilateral relationship with other countries. More so, Germany was forced to abandon its relationship with Austria and Hungary. Clear? So German sovereignty was surrendered at this point of time, and this was surrendered largely because Germany was to be isolated. Clear? Moreover, economically, Germany was largely affected because Germany was forced to surrender some important regions. First of all, Germany was forced to surrender the regions of Alsace and Lorraine to France, which was originally French territory but was marked by huge resources. Clear? So Alsace and Lorraine, which was acquired by Germany from France, had to be returned back to France under Treaty of Versailles. Not only this, Germany had to surrender the coal-producing region of Saar Valley on lease for 15 years to France so that France could use the coal reserves of Germany. Economically, Germany was affected because Germany was forced to abandon all its colonies in Asia and Africa. So all German colonies were taken away and parceled among the victorious powers after First World War. So it was economically a big loss for Germany. Clear? More importantly, Germany was affected militarily. It was made clear Germany cannot maintain a large military force, and it was allowed to maintain only force of 1 lakh just to ensure its internal security. So all forms of aggression was to be abandoned, and Germany was to remain a peaceful country with only 1 lakh force for internal security. This was the third provision. At the same time, Germany was also affected financially. In fact, in the Treaty of Versailles, it was made clear that Germany was responsible for First World War, and it was declared to be a war-guilty nation, guilty of war. And after declaring Germany to be a war-guilty nation, all the countries devastated by Germany, they demanded compensation, and huge war indemnity was imposed upon Germany. This indemnity amount was fixed to 5,500 million US dollars, which was next to impossible to be paid by Germany. Clear? And therefore it became highly controversial in course of time that affected Germany financially. So Germany was affected from perspective of sovereignty, Germany was affected politically, Germany was affected economically, and Germany was affected militarily, Germany was affected financially. Clear? Obviously, it resulted in huge retaliation by Germans, and that culminated into another catastrophic war in world history. Right about the provisions of Treaty of Versailles. Clear? Right, under the Treaty of the Versailles, under the Treaty of Versailles, Germany was forced to surrender. Germany was forced to surrender its sovereignty. Germany was forced to surrender its sovereignty. Okay? Right. Germany could not maintain bilateral or multilateral relationship. Germany could not maintain bilateral or multilateral relationship. Multilateral relationship with other countries, including Austria and Hungary. Austria and Hungary. Clear? Right. Moreover, Germany, Germany, Germany was forced to surrender all its colonies, was forced to surrender all its colonies in Asia and Africa. In Asia and Africa. Asia and Africa. So sovereignty. Right, next paragraph. Right, economically, Germany was forced to surrender. Germany was forced to surrender the resourceful regions. Forced to surrender the resourceful regions of Alsace and Lorraine. Resourceful regions of Alsace and Lorraine to France. Alsace and Lorraine to France. Alsace and Lorraine to France. To France. Clear? France. Right. Beside Germany was forced to offer. Germany was forced to offer. The coal producing region. Forced to offer the coal producing region of Saar Valley. Coal producing region of Saar Valley to France. Saar Valley to France on lease for 15 years. On lease for 15 years. Lease for 15 years. 15 years. Clear? 50 years. Right. Moreover, the entire region of the entire region of the Rhineland, the entire region of the Rhineland was to be demilitarized by Germany. Resource region was to be demilitarized by Germany. Demilitarized by Germany. Clear? Germany economically. Change paragraph. Right. Militarily. Germany was prohibited. Militarily, Germany was prohibited. Germany was prohibited to recruit and maintain large military force. To recruit and maintain large military force. Large military force. Recruit and maintain large military force. Military force. Clear? Right. It was allowed to retain. It was allowed to retain only 1 lakh military force. It was allowed to retain only 1 lakh military force. 1 lakh military force for internal security. For internal security. Internal security. Militarily. Change paragraph. Right. Above all, ABOVE, above all, Germany was declared to be, above all, Germany was declared to be a war-guilt nation. Right, war-guilt with inverted comma. Germany was declared to be a war-guilt nation. Guilty of war. Declared to be a war-guilt nation. Declared to be a war-guilt nation. Nation. And forced to pay compensation. Forced to pay compensation to the victimized countries. Forced to pay compensation for victimized countries. Compensation for victimized countries. Victimized countries like France and Belgium. Both were attacked by Germany. Victimized countries like France and Belgium. Clear? Right. The indemnity amount was fixed to 5,500 million US dollars. Was fixed to 5,500 million US dollars. 5,500 million US dollars, which was next to impossible. Next to impossible to be paid by Germany. So all major provisions, change paragraph, clear? Okay, right. All these provisions affected the sentiments. All these provisions affected the sentiments of German people. Affected the sentiments of German people. And it is largely accepted. That the Treaty of Versailles, sowed the seeds of SOWED, sowed the seeds of the Second World War. Sowed the seeds of the Second World War. Clear? So, most humiliating treaty known as Treaty of Versailles imposed upon Germany. Clear? Now, apart from this, just understand, clear? Treaties were imposed upon other defeated powers of Central Powers like Austria, Hungary, Bulgaria and Turkey. Clear? And all these treaties imposed upon other remaining defeated powers are important because with these treaties imposed upon defeated powers, certain areas were taken away and these areas were clubbed together on the principle of self-determination to create new countries. Clear? In fact, here only a very important development took place known as the redrawal of the national boundaries. And with redrawal of national boundaries, some new countries took their birth at this time during Paris Peace Conference, and therefore it becomes very important. Clear? So we'll discuss about these treaties and creation of new countries through redrawal of national boundaries, and be prepared about this topic because redrawal of the national boundaries is explicitly mentioned in the syllabus for mains examination in world history. Clear? So now we'll come to redrawal of national boundaries, which were done by readjustment of territories through treaties imposed upon other defeated powers. Clear? Other defeated powers. Clear? So right, next paragraph. Clear? Right, during Paris Peace Conference, treaties were imposed upon other defeated powers. Clear? Powers. Right. The most important outcome of these treaties, the most important outcome of these treaties, is creation of new countries, through the redrawal of the national boundaries, redrawal of the national boundaries. So we'll come to the redrawal of national boundaries and which countries were created at this time as per the treaties imposed upon other defeated powers like Austria, Hungary, Turkey and Bulgaria. Welcome those treaties. Clear? Meanwhile, before that, there's a question. Clear? Sir, please mention what we have to read along with these notes. Sumana. Clear? See, I'll let you know. Clear? If anything that has to be done along with the class notes is the material that has been provided by KSG. Clear? In fact, you can supplement the class notes with the materials that has already been provided. No need to go with any other source. Clear? And moreover, again I'll let you know. Clear? Yesterday only some students asked me about the practice questions. Clear? I had a discussion here with the management and I'll let you know. You must have been given this material, that is KSG course module, and if you look at, and I have asked, all this material has been given to all of you in KSG course module. I was going through, there's a section of world history, that is section now serial number 8, and that page number itself is the 66. Clear? If you look into page number 66 of this material, you have questions on world history. Clear? In fact, all the topics are also been detailed and there are some major questions for practice also. In fact, previous year questions has also been given starting from 2014 when world history was introduced till 2022. Clear? And questions for practice has also been given. Clear? And analyze the factors that help the growth of nationalism in Eastern Europe. Profits can be increased at the age of workers' wage. Therefore, the interests of workers and capitalists are irreconcilable. Karl Marx theory. So there are 34 questions given for practice. Clear? Go through these questions itself, practice this. This is I'm showing you, it's a course module which has been given to you by KSG. Look into the page number 70 and 71. 34 questions has been given for practice, and I think that is sufficient enough for practice. And if you complete those 34 questions, do practice the previous year questions also. At least 10 to 15 questions are given for from previous year as well. That is, altogether you have 50 questions to be practiced, and I think it's sufficient for world history. Clear? As far as material is concerned, don't run after any other material. Go through the material given by KSG and along with class notes. In fact, in class notes also we have covered things quite elaborately. So everything along with supplemented by KSG material would suffice to complete the preparation of world history. So don't run after materials. These materials are enough. Rather devote more time for writing practice, for skill upgradation, because those skills and tools will help you to write better answers in mains examination. So don't run after materials. Enough content is there with you along with class notes and along with the printed material given by KSG. Practice questions are there. Previous year questions are there. Do practice them. That is sufficient enough to complete the process of your preparation related to world history. Is it fine to all of you? So please mention that we have to read. You have to read only the KSG material along with class note. That would suffice. Practice questions also been given here. Practice the questions from there along with previous year questions as well. Is it clear, Sumana? Is that clear to all of you? Please revert back. Is that clear to all of you? Is everything clear related to practice questions which was being asked yesterday? Fine, clear. Do practice those questions. That is sufficient enough. Nimai, fine, clear. So now, clear. So we'll start with redrawal of national boundaries when we'll discuss about treaties imposed upon other defeated powers in the Paris Peace Conference after First World War. Clear? Now, we'll take a break for 1 hour and we'll start exactly at 2 o'clock. And at 2 o'clock, we'll start with redrawal of national boundaries through treaties imposed upon other defeated powers. Is that clear? So we'll continue after a break. We'll start sharply at 2 o'clock. Clear. Thank you.